Hey guys, welcome back to another flashlight review, and today we're going to be looking at the Vastlite Versa Bow. And this is a new zoomable LEP flashlight with close to 1.5 kilometers of range. Pretty incredible for something that fits so easily in your pocket. And I've always wondered why no one's actually bothered to make a smaller zoomable LEP flashlight. A lot of them just have like a fixed focus. That's the Vastlite Bow. And yeah, I just think that having the zoomable function on here can be handy if you're in situations where you might want to use it as a walking light, maybe for closer up tasks as well. So the unique thing about the Vastlite Versa Bow is that it has this unique zooming mechanism that doesn't result in the light shortening or lengthening. So the lens is actually focused internally by rotating the head. And yeah, I own a bunch of different zoomable flashlights. This is the first time I've seen this kind of system used. So just a little demo, basically just press once to turn on. And this is the little mechanism. You can see that's kind of the focusable system. And look, you don't get a super wide beam, but it is going to be much more useful. There is also a high mode. So my version of the Vastlite Versa Bow didn't come with a box or anything like that. This is an early sample that Vastlite have actually sent to Flashlight Go. The company that I work with, they sent this to me as a sample, but the proper release model should come with a battery. Takes a 21700 cell. I'm just using this Lito color cell. It also does take longer cells. I put in a 21700 protected cell with a inbuilt USB-C charging port, and that works fine. And you should get a few other accessories as well, like a USB-C charging cable, maybe a lanyard. Okay, so a little side-by-side comparison of the Vastlite Versa Bow with a few of the flashlights that I own. And these are a couple of Vastlite flashlights I've reviewed in the past, the Vastlite Bow and the Vastlite Minima Bow. These are non-focusable, as you can see. They do have a much smaller, more compact profile, but they're not as powerful as the Versa Bow. The Convoy M2, I brought this one out because I thought it'd be kind of similar size, and it is. If you ever look there, it's, the battery tube is a little bit larger and it's a bit shorter, but yeah, similar sort of profile. So it's something that you can definitely carry around in your pocket. And I've also got a couple of other Convoy lights here, the S8 and the T6. So just, in comparison, in case you're thinking of whether this is going to be suitable to carry around or not. And I also have here a Nextorch LED flashlight, the T10L. And interestingly, if we look down the bezels, the bezel isn't really that much, different from the T10L. So here's a little close-up of the Vastlite Versa Bow. And overall, the construction quality is excellent. There's no imperfections or rough spots on the light. And the anodizing is pretty smooth. It's an interesting knurling pattern here on the battery tube. I haven't seen this one before, but it does add extra grip. It goes quite deep. And for some reason, the battery tube looks a little glossier than the head on this early sample that I received. And yeah, the head, as you can see, is wider than the rest of the body in order to accommodate the lens in there. And there are some cutouts here in the head as well. So you can add in 4 tritium vials. And you can also see there's some heat sinking cutouts on the side of the head. So the light is operated by a single rubber switch here on the side. And it has an aluminium retaining ring here as well. Fairly quiet when you press. It also functions as a battery/charging indicator, and you do get a magnet there in the tail, pretty strong magnet, so it does stick above into like the side of a workbench or something like that. And there is no tail switch, as you can see, but you do get a lanyard attachment hole just over here. There is also a USB-C charging port here on the side. Okay, so here's a little close-up of the head, and I'll see if I can get the camera to focus a bit closer. And that is the LEP module sitting right down the base. And so when you, as you can see, rotate the head, it brings it further away. the lens further away, and then we get closer up to the lens, to the LEP module. So yeah, it just moves an internal platform, I believe, where the lens sits. It moves it closer or further away from the LEP module, and the mechanism feels pretty smooth, doesn't produce any excess noise, and yeah, it can be operated with one hand, as you can see, which is going to be helpful if you're turning it on and you want to, you know, go in between flood and throw, or zoom in and out, basically. I did notice as well that if you have the light anywhere between fully zoomed in and fully zoomed out, there is a bit of a rattle. So you can see no rattle, but kind of in the middle, there you go. There's a little bit of noise. I guess they must have increased the tolerances so that the mechanism doesn't get stuck or worn out. So this version of the Vastlite Versa Bow didn't come with an instruction manual. I just had to figure out the modes. So basically switch on, and there's a memory mode. So there's basically, when you press and hold, you can alternate between like a low and a high mode. So that's here on the low, just for the sake of the camera. And yeah, obviously, you know, rotating the head will change the zoom. And if you double press as well while the light is on, you get a strobe mode. And same when the light is off, like an emergency sort of strobe mode. But it's good that, say, if you have it on like the high mode here, it remembers that. So you do have one step access to high just through one press, and got that strobe in there as well. Now you can lock the light, so just press 4 times while the light is off and won't turn back on again. Now it does actually flash this sort of light here on the side, the auxiliary light. It's a little bit difficult to see. All right, so I ran a ceiling bounce test with the Vastlite Versa Bow on high, and you can see here you get 2 minutes of runtime before the light steps down. That is really impressive considering the size of this light. I do know and have a bunch of other LEP flashlights that step down before that 2-minute mark. So yeah, really impressive. You get some ongoing sustained output. You can also just turn it off and reactivate again, and you can see the light steps down to about 30% of output by the 2-minute mark. Here are some tests that I ran with my Audible Lightmaster Pro, and you can see here on the high mode, I managed to measure 1,387 meters of throw. That is really impressive for a little flashlight like this. I think this has got to be, yeah, it's probably my highest throwing flashlight in my collection of this size. I mean, really can't find anything that comes anywhere near to it. Maybe my Trustfire T30. That could be one. Also ran some tests with the zoom out mode. You can see it really reduces the range significantly, only 66 meters of range on high. So some considerations if you're thinking of getting the Vastlite Versa Bow. The first one is zoomed in. You know, this beam is perfect, no artifacts, super powerful, but when you zoom out, there is, especially when you're in the middle of zooming out, there's a bit of a donut hole in the early stages, and that smoothens out near the end. But yeah, the beam is still not fully uniform, you know, right when you completely zoom out. It's not a deal breaker, but yeah, you can of course still use this in circumstances where you need a wider beam, but it might bug some people out there. The second consideration is that these LEP flashlights are impractical to most. Even with the zoomable lens, LED tech is more efficient at producing more light at lower power. So yeah, for long range spotting and for the fun factor though, this is really unbeatable in my opinion. The third consideration is that Vastlite didn't include a clip or an 18-350 tube. I think that, you know, would have been fantastic, especially if they included that in the final model. You know, I think, you know, I can squeeze a friction clip on, but I'm just worried that I'll scratch up the anodizing. It's just not ideal, but yeah, it's doable. A tail switch shortcut as well, I think, to the highest mode would have been the cherry on the cake. Finally, it would have been good if I could turn off the side lights permanently, this kind of battery indicator lights, and it's very difficult to see here, but it does glow faintly just to indicate where the light is. Does consume a minuscule amount of power. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I found that one thing you can do is press 3 times and it disables it, but once you turn it on, it reactivates again. Overall, there are a few flashlights out there that get me this excited these days to use them. To have a pocketable flashlight that reaches close to 1.5 kilometers is insane. Something that just fits in the palm of your hand, in your jeans pocket, and that focusable lens allows you to utilize the LEP module for closer up tasks like walking, even as a work light. So yeah, I can definitely see myself carrying this light around fairly often. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. If you have questions as well, leave them below and I'll get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, click the like button and share the video with someone who might be interested. It helps me to get my channel out to more people. And if you want to see more flashlight reviews and keep up to date with the latest flashlight news, make sure you subscribe. All right, I've got the Vastlite Versa Bow, and this is with the lens completely zoomed out now. And you can see it's okay. I mean, as a walking light, there is enough. The field of view is sort of wide enough for you to see, but obviously it's not ideal. It's not gonna have as much flood as like a LED flashlight. Let's start zooming in all the way and see how we go. And you can really see the end of that path now, right at the end. There, around about here, that donut hole disappears. Around about here. So useful to just be able to zoom in and out, something I'm not used to with a lot of LEP flashlights. It's zoomed in all the way now. Okay, zoom out. This is the high mode, so turn it off, turn it back on, and then go to the low mode there. So that's the low mode. It's actually a little brighter than the camera portrays. Let's go zoom in a bit further. It's like a good power saving mode, I suppose. Okay. I'll go for a bit of a walk. There's a bunch of people just walking up ahead. I don't want to blind them. Alright, so continuing. Yeah, this is a pretty popular walkway, I suppose. Animals falling out of trees every now and then. Oh, it's just so cool how it picks up like the branches when you get closer, like that, and then continues on. Vastlite Versa Bow, and this is on the highest mode. There's only two modes really, high and low. And wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Let's swap it over to the low mode. Okay, you can't, it still reaches the end, but can't see it as well definitely as the high mode. Let's pop it onto the high, and what I'll do is also just turn so that we get a bit of the zoom now. Okay, so as you can see, there is a bit of a kind of donut hole in the center. However, the beam is still like fairly usable. As you can see, like it expands out, and this is incredible, blowing my mind how this tiny little light is managing to reach that far. And that donut hole isn't as bad as when you're looking at it indoors, because you're obviously looking at a hole, looking at it on a white wall. But it's just incredible how this thing projects a beam that far. That's the highest, well, the most zoomed out stage, so we'll zoom back in again. Okay, this is going to be okay as a walking light. Let's get, I mean, if you had no other choice though. There we go. It's like having a little spotlight. Literally. Continue zooming in. Even if you zoom it out just a little bit, like that, it just gives you a much larger hotspot. Let me just flip it to the lower mode. You can't really see it so well. You need it on that high mode. Wow. There's a bat. Yep, I can really see myself playing around with this thing and having it on me a lot more often now. So I've also got the Vastlite Bow here, and let's just compare them both. So the Vastlite Bow to the right, that was the low mode. This is now the high mode on the Vastlite Bow, and you can see the difference. The intensity of that beam is just, it's like night and day really. But you get a larger hotspot. Let me just increase the size of that beam. So now, if you look at both of these together, once I've sort of zoomed it out a little bit, it now matches, kind of matches the Vastlite Bow. And Vastlite Versa to the left and Vastlite Bow to the right. It's just very versatile. What can I say? What is that? There's something there. I think that's a flag. It's on a golf course. Now, let's have a look at it, the Versa, next to a normal flashlight. And I've got my Convoy T6 here. This is with the SFT25R in it. So you can see there's a ton of flood. Now if I turn on the Vastlite Versa Bow, you can see there's no flood at all basically, but just an intense hotspot. Okay, that's kind of the difference. Of course you don't get the range, but what if I just zoom out like this? Okay, that's the Vastlite Versa Bow, and that is the Convoy T6. So yeah, look, it's not ideal in terms of that donut hole right in the center there when you've got it zoomed out completely, but it is usable. It is usable, especially on the kind of lower magnification, well, lower focus settings. So if you're really focused in like that and just unfocus a little bit, that's actually quite useful to expand the hotspot out. Rather than having a tiny little hotspot like this, you can expand it out, and I can't really see much of a donut hole at all. Still very usable.